Today's episode is a really fascinating one. We're chatting with Professor Keith Brazendale, whose research might just confirm what camp owners have known all along. Camp is one of the best prescriptions for tackling childhood obesity. We'll talk about why time at camp helps kids move more, eat better, and build habits that stick long after the summer ends. You're going to love this conversation as we go a little more academic on the Camp Owners Podcast.
This is the Camp Owners Podcast from Go Camp Pro, exploring best practices and issues that professionals in the private camp industry face every day. You can find our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod.
Your staff work late into the night to create perfect camper schedules. Prevent midsummer burnout with Camptivities, the smart scheduling software that saves time, reduces mistakes, and keeps your team energized. Learn more at camptivities.com. Welcome to the Camp Owners Podcast, a space for camp owners to talk about the unique aspects of camp ownership and get inspired by each other. We sit down with camp industry experts, leaders, and fellow camp owners and industry experts to discuss the biggest issues in the private camp world. Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Shuna. I am the co-owner and executive director of Hidden Pines Ranch, located in Stillwater, Minnesota.
And hi, everybody. I'm Howie Grossinger, and I am the co-owner and director of Camp Robin Hood and Camp Walden, day and overnight camps in Ontario, Canada. If you're looking to find and subscribe to the Camp Owners Podcast, you can either find us online at gocamp.pro/ownerspod or by searching for us in your favorite podcast app. Finally, if you're listening to this and think it would be useful to other camp owners or aspiring camp owners in your circle, please feel free to send them a note to listen. And as always, we want to give the whole team at Camptivities a huge shout out and thank you for being our show sponsors. It's been many years, and as you know, Kelly and I are very grateful for them helping make this show possible. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. Minnesota and Canada in February. What are we thinking?
So toasty. Actually, we're having a heat wave. It's like 20 something here today. For
Oh,
my
really?
Canadian friends, don't ask me to do the math, but for my American listeners, yeah, it's like 25. It's balmy, Howie. How is it up there?
Well, with the wind chill, it was minus 32 Celsius. So it was pretty darn cold. However, Sari dragged me out skiing at some point in the last several days. So it was fun to be cold and almost frostbitten, but we're Canadian and that's what we do. And you're from Minnesota and that's what you do.
So we're hardy. We're hardy, and the four
Yes.
seasons is a good thing. So
Yes. And our guest is from Florida and he's just smirking at us and smiling and etc. But with that, Kelly, I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. We're actually bringing academia to the Camp Owners Podcast. It may make us, or at least me, feel a lot smarter, but I think we're going to elevate things today. So we're really happy to have Associate Professor Keith Brazendale from UCF, the University of Central Florida, to the show today. Keith is currently conducting some really great research in the area of childhood obesity and the role summer camp can play in curbing its prevalence. We are excited to hear about the work he and his team are undertaking and how it elevates the role summer camp can play in promoting healthy children. Keith, welcome to the Camp Owners Podcast.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be speaking about this topic and maybe being your first academic on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to talk and share some information about the great things that summer camps do.
We've had a lot of really smart people on the show, but I don't think they have the letters behind their name that maybe you do. So I
It's all
think that
fluff.
well, at least we can say we're leveling up. So it just
Yeah.
adds to the legitimacy of this wonderful podcast. But it's really nice to have you. So as we do on this show, Keith, we typically get our camp friends on here to talk about their origin story in camp and invite you to tell us a little bit about your history in the camp space, but also just maybe take us through your journey in your academic life and how you find yourself today, focused on this really important topic, which we're really eager to dive into.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's been quite a journey, I'd say the last 20 years. So I'm originally from Scotland, but I moved to the US in 2010 after I got my bachelor's degree. And I actually moved over here initially to work at a overnight camp up in Lee, Massachusetts for a summer as like a summer job. And my experience with summer camps before that was non-existent. There are camps in Scotland, but nothing to the extent that you have in North America. But, I was always very active kid, played a lot of sports, and I had a chance to work at summer camp over in the US and teach sports and, hang out with the kids. And it just seemed like a great way to fill a summer. So a friend and I, we signed the paperwork and off we went. And I actually loved it so much. I returned the following summer to the same camp. And I thought, what a wonderful experience this was. Now, little did I know that, 15, 20 years later, I'd be conducting research in this area. So it's all very full circle for me. But when I landed in the US officially, I started to begin some extra studying here. I was really interested in children's health. I was a PE teacher by trade in Scotland, moved to the US to continue my studies and started really looking at the research side of children's health. And, there was obviously I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but statistically, there's a childhood obesity epidemic sort of sweeping North America. And now we're at a point where children's health really should be at the forefront of the conversation. So I studied for, several years at Florida Atlantic University for my master's. Then I went to the University of South Carolina to do my PhD. And it was in South Carolina that we actually started the first sort of investigations into all the different places that children go outside of school, so after school programs and summer camps. So we started doing some evaluations of summer camps in general. How active are these places? What are some of the foods that they serve, the activities that they, promote for the children. And we discovered they're actually really healthy places. So, I left that alone. I went on and continued my career and sought professor role at the University of Central Florida, where I find myself now. And I've sort of started my own research group down here. And just at that same time, we started noticing some alarming trends in our children's health literature that was showing that summer is really the critical time for children's physical health in terms of their fitness and their weight status. There was several longitudinal studies coming out of North America showing that children over the 9 months of the school year remained relatively healthy in terms of those metrics. Their fitness was stable and their weight gain was normal, as you'd expect for a growing child. However, when summer came around, the metrics were regressing. Children were gaining weight, but they were losing fitness. So we began to think as a research team, well, what may be that case? And, if you think about summer, it's quite a long-winded stretch of time where children are removed from structure in their day. So I published a paper 10 years ago called the Structured Days Hypothesis, and that sort of formed the framework for all my studies moving forward about how children need consistency during times when they don't have it. The largest time is summer. And that's where summer camps come in. They provide this natural intervention for children. And we're just getting to the point now where we're beginning to see more attention given to the space, because typically summer, or traditionally you could think summer has been seen as a really healthy, active time for children, and that's not necessarily the case anymore. Now I find myself at the University of Central Florida. We've had some projects funded that are going to explore summer, that have explored summer and summer camps, and we've explored children who attend versus don't attend. What we're finding is some really promising outcomes. So I'm sort of here today to share some of that and promote the good things that camps are doing, and maybe give some suggestions for camp directors on how they might want to, little things that they can consider in their day-to-day, curriculums, and maybe ways to promote their camp above all the other things that camp bring for children. In terms of physical health, it's right up there. So, this is an area I'm passionate about. And, I've actually failed to mention, in South Carolina, my wife and I started a nonprofit summer camp for children with developmental disabilities. And there was nothing for children in the area. So we dabbled in running a camp, and this was for kids, and that was a beast. So a lot of admiration for camp directors of what goes into it. It was only a two-day-a-week camp for 6 weeks, and we had about 80 children by our 5th summer, and it was it was a beast.
Yeah.
So kudos to all you guys.
It is a beast. It is a beast. No truer words have ever been spoken. It is a beast. It's an amazing beast, but it's a beast. I want to make a sidebar here, Howie, before we talk about some of the amazing questions we have. But Keith could just be like a poster adult for the J1 visa and how important it is. I mean, look at he
Yes.
came over to be a counselor.
Yeah.
Just for a summer. And now we have this
Yep.
awesome professor as in the US working at a
Yep.
university. Like that right there is the why and why international staff are such a benefit to not only camps, but just like the US. I
Yep.
mean, we're not going to get political about people coming to the US right now, but as a Minnesotan, I am going to add that in that it just speaks to me right
As you
now.
should.
How
As you should.
important-
I agree.
How important
J1
it is.
is, yeah.
So
So we're all standard.
thank you.
And up here in Canada, we have an equivalent, and we've been working hard. And so many of our camps in Canada are benefiting from incredible international staff. And in many ways, it's become the lifeline for solving our staffing puzzle. And but I think Keith's a great example of that. So for many reasons, it's really nice to have him. And actually, on a sidebar as well, I grew up in a Scottish soccer club growing up. So Keith is bringing me back to the sounds of my coach, Eddie Andrews, who used to, yell at me as a defender on my soccer field. So I'm a little triggered, but not in the worst way possible. But it's good.
Yeah. I can see you as a good center half. You got the height and the bro. You put the big guys in the middle of the team.
I was pretty good in the air until yes, but whatever. Enough about me, Kelly.
Enough about you, Howie. Let's talk about our guest.
So Keith, I want to dig into a few things. I mean, there was recently an article that was released by the university about your work, and it really intrigued Kelly and I, and we wanted to kind of just, dig into that a little bit as part of this conversation. And for us as a starting point is sort of what the aha moment for you guys and your team about where summer camp can actually serve as a health intervention, rather than just a recreational option. Like where in your work did you start, aside from your own anecdotal experience or talking to people, but was there a moment, in the lab, so to speak, where it was like, holy moly?
Yeah, no, there was. Research moves slowly, but it was a study that we worked on in 2018 where I was working for a research group. We just got a large grant. It was a 4-year summer camp intervention, right? This was a study that was funded by the NIH to say, how can we make summer camps healthier? And it's a 4-year study, and we went in and did our baseline assessments the first summer. We're just going in, collecting our baseline data. And it was when we collected the baseline data that we realized these guys are already operating at a high level in terms of health outcomes for children. These kids are super active already. And now you want us, right? We didn't know this going in, but now we're supposed to make this place even better. It was almost like what we call a ceiling effect. So we knew we were about to embark on a 4-year intervention that really we didn't need to be doing. So that was the initial moment. It was like, these are natural interventions. We don't need to be messing around with these places. And this was a study that we conducted in 20 summer day camps across South Carolina. And we had all types. We had ones that were on the lake. We had ones operating out of strip malls, YMCAs, churches, military bases. We had the whole gamut of types of summer day camps. So it wasn't necessarily, the children are the most active and they have the better menus and their schedules are nice and balanced. In certain ones, we saw this across the board. And so that was the initial aha moment. Now, my mentor at the time an advisor, he went on and conducted that intervention. And then I moved down to UCF. And that's when we were just continued conversations about, this isn't about making these places any better. This is about, we got to get kids into these places. Not enough children attend summer day camps. These are natural interventions that exist that we need to get kids access to. So that was the first sort of, you could say aha moment. And as I mentioned earlier, research moves really slow. So just because one research group found something, in order to change a shift in the mindset of a research field, you need multiple studies. You almost have to shift the paradigm or the way of thinking around things to get this going. So it's taken several years. But in the meantime, we've been conducting smaller studies to prove this concept. Right? You can't just sit and wait to conduct some type of large scale study. So that was the initial aha moment. And it made perfect sense. We went out to these places and we saw that these kids are these camps are providing opportunities for the children to be active, to engage in certain activities, whether it's enrichment, whether it's, reading, some outdoor time. They have a specific meal time. Just the fact that the camp day itself has a consistent start and end time. These are all things within the field of research that I look into that are very important for kids. And the mirror image of that is school. School provides all that for children. And I don't want to go too off tangent here, but all of our research in terms of children's health, or a lot of our research, is focused on the 9-month school year. And we've been missing the whole point here. We don't need to touch school or the school months. It's times when children don't have that necessary daily structure or routine, and summer is that time.
Yeah, that's really
That's interesting. Just thinking about like, we don't need to mess with school. School's good. And you were so right of like, I just picture, probably because of what we do, Howie, that like kids are just active all
Yeah.
summer. But I think reading your article and talking about this, you realize that we're forgetting about so many kids that are not active and aren't participating in something like camp. So I feel like our view is skewed a little bit, Howie, because it's what we see and what we know. But it's really not the case for all kids. So something you mentioned too is you're talking about, like in the article, about shifting the mindset about how we improve like the health of kids. So what do you think we've gotten wrong? Is that what we've gotten wrong of thinking kids are active? Or what do you mean by that we've gotten it wrong up until now? And like, what new mindset are you hoping that like you would promote or we would promote?
The mindset essentially is, why have we been spending, research dollars focusing on studies that will take place when children are in that 9-month school year period? We have longitudinal data, so we've followed thousands of children over several years, same children, and we've noticed that their fitness levels and their weight are relatively stable over that 9-month school year. But we tend to focus on that to make it even better. And we don't need to when children's health is really deteriorating over summer. So our field, has largely ignored summer, maybe because of this mindset as we're an older generation now that, well, summer's fine. Summer's an active time for children. And then maybe, camp directors might be thinking the same. And that's true, because the children you see over summer are the kids that attend these places that are really active and keeping the health of children nice and stable. The thought is, well, what are the children that are not attending camp? What are they doing over summer? So there's an analogy that we have in our field that we've positioned for several years now, and it's to think of summer as a long weekend. Children leave the school week and then they go away for the weekend. Now, weekends are very variable for all children. Some children play sports. Other children maybe don't play sports. Now, the magnitude of summer is essentially 10 weeks of unstructured time, and parents have to fill that. Now, the children that attend camp, that's great. But what are the children that don't attend camp? What are they doing? And more often than not, the children that don't attend camp are the children that we're seeing the worst outcomes in. So when I say worst outcomes, they're returning to school after summer heavier. We call that accelerated weight gain. They've exhibited accelerated weight gain. So this is weight gain above normal growth, because children are obviously having growth spurts and they're gaining weight, and that's healthy. But this is growth that is unhealthy, and their fitness levels, which is closely linked to how active they are, have regressed. So they've gained this level of fitness during the school year, and then May comes and we assess them, and they've got a nice high fitness level. They come back in August for a post-summer assessment, and it's gotten worse. It's gone backwards, and sometimes even lower than when they started the year before. So it's this stair step down in fitness levels. So it's about filling that summer time that, and that's the beauty of summer camps. It does it naturally for children. And also, we could have a whole separate conversation about all the other great things that it does for a child's health outside of the physical, right? The social aspect. I have colleagues in Australia focusing on you know, isolation over summer, social isolation. COVID-19 really magnified that. And that wasn't just occurring over summer. That was a 18 to 24 month
For sure.
pandemic for children, you know? So it's summer day camps do so much. Obviously, I'm here to speak about one small part of it, but really there's a myriad of things that can really benefit for the child.
Well, we've seen that. I mean, obviously, to your last point about the impact of COVID, I mean, for Kelly and myself, who are predominantly in the day camp space, I mean, some of the kids we've had in 2024 and 2025, I mean, camp was their very first socializing experience because of limited play dates. I mean, obviously depended on where you lived in North America and some of the rules and schooling and all those things. And that aside, we saw so many kids from a socializing perspective who struggled in those very early years of camp because they didn't have play dates. They didn't know how to interact with kids. And that was such an important part. And then you add the physical fitness component. I'm sure even young kids were getting a much later start to be involved in physical activity than they would otherwise had COVID not occurred. And so, it's safe to say that so many of our kids got a later start in recent years than they should have or typically do. And also, we have a lot of kids, let's say in the middle school age group, who had to take inordinate, amounts of breaks or a lengthy break from their physical activity, even outside the summer. I guess for me, in hearing this, Keith, just something that comes to mind, there has been a real movement in the camp space to partnering with schools, making the argument, not only, can you come to my camp because this is what I do, but just generally speaking, getting the education system to see camp as an extension of education in a way that isn't seen as and let's be very honest, the range of private camps that are out there range in price and affordability and all those things. And yes, there are some amazing people in our industry who are in the private camp space who give access and do wonderful things with scholarships and bursaries. But just generally speaking, there are organizations that are working really hard to bridge the kind of the academic world to see what we do for this 8 to 10 week period as an element of education. It is not separate. It is a partner in this. And I'm wondering, as you think about where camp fits into your, not only previous experience, but the work that you do, I think there are a lot of people in the industry who are working towards that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And some of the things we've been thinking about is, as we build towards summer, so like in these months, ramping up to summer, if we could get the schools or the education system to start, like you say, promoting summer camps, local camps, here are your options, as an extension of the school year, asking parents, do they need help or support in finding camps, perhaps scholarship opportunities, and really not leaving it up to, luck and you could say priorities for a family. So that would be like almost like the long-term goal. If this was just an extension of the school year where academics maybe aren't as focused as much, although the funny thing is there's a term that we've been using that we actually stole from the academic literature called the summer slide. You might have heard of it. It's where children's reading and writing and math, that regresses over summer because they're not practicing those skills. Now, the children who attend summer camp actually intentionally sometimes or unintentionally do get to practice those skills. And we see improvements in that too. So we don't have to have year-round schooling, but we do need year-round sort of structure. And summer day camps provide school-like structure over summer. Schools, and this is something I would like to just emphasize because schools do get a bad rep sometimes, right? Oh, they don't feed the kids the good food and PE is cut short or they don't get enough PE. that does not seem to matter. The school day provides scheduled, routine, and consistent patterns for children day to day, where they can accrue or gain physical activity intentionally or unintentionally. Yes, they'll get a little bit of recess, but their day is broken up. They're walking to and from activities within the school environment. They have a consistent start time, end time. There's maybe some after school things going on or not. We found another good example is there's not unrestricted open access to eating occasions, for example, right? Camp does the same thing. It's not really about what the kids are going to eat what the kids are going to eat. It's scheduled and it's calorie somewhat controlled. It's not, hey, this is a buffet, morning, noon, and night, eat as much as you want. School does all that things for children. Again, the children over summer who don't attend camps, who knows what they're doing, right? Who knows how much access to screen time they're getting. At camps, screen time is great. Get the movies on. Sure. They're not watching movies all day, right? They're not eating all day. And
No.
there's a schedule. There might be a day where they don't do so much activity, but that's okay. We found the fact that they're moving through a consistent, structured, and routine day seems to have what we call a protective effect on the child. And school does that. We can look at the best schools that offer the best meals and PE every day, and we can look at the schools that have limited PE and maybe they serve all they're able to serve. But what we find is that's federally controlled. It's nutrient dense. It might not be the best, but it's enough. And for a lot of the children we focus on in our studies, that's sometimes the best meal or the only meal they're getting that day at school. And camps do the same. So it's really a school-like environment that kids yearn for over summer. I don't believe parents can mimic this at home for 10 weeks. That's too much to ask. And I know we have literature on this, but anecdotally, obviously, I'm a father of 2 young children. Trying to, fill the day with activities for that long is just too challenging with parents and the competing demands they've got with work. Camps take that out of the equation, and they're fun, safe, social environments to send your children to. So it's really, it'd be really great if we could get schools around that ramp up to summer to really start promoting what is your child doing over summer? Start asking those questions to parents, sending out information. Maybe it's on the 5 nearest camps, and having camp providers come in and talk to parents at a parent night, and provide them with some of this data that might change their mindset.
As a camp owner, you know your operational staff are the heartbeat of your program. They're the ones who would bleed for camp, staying up way too late, night after night, to make sure every camper gets a great schedule. Camptivities gives them their evenings back. Their software builds schedules around your camp's unique rules, saving time, cutting mistakes, and keeping your most dedicated people happy, energized, and ready to give campers the best summer ever. Camptivities does it all for camps. Auto-scheduling for staff, campers, groups, manual adjustments, over 70 reports for rosters and data analysis, tons of customizable settings, and so much more. Schedule smarter at camptivities.com. Now is the time to find a better way to schedule this summer. Don't wait. Next summer will be here before you know it. Camptivities would love to show you the next big thing in camp. Visit camptivities.com to set up a time to chat. Let Camptivities help you get away from your desk and back out to camp.
That's interesting how you said summer is like a long weekend. And I'm imagining like the things you're talking about with the structured day hypothesis is it's probably how teachers feel on a Monday. So like if kids have like a really structured weekend and like not too busy, but like things going on, they probably come into Monday just that much more ready for the day and like ready to go and engage versus if they spend all weekend just unstructured on video games, they're probably in a different mindset coming in on Monday. So that I really think that's interesting how you compare it to a long weekend. Do you find that low income families, I think you mentioned that low income families are more like, is it evidence showing that they're having they're at higher risk for this kind of like inactivity or having a more challenging summer? Is there like a correlation there with
Yeah, so the data show that all children are impacted by summer, but the children who are most at risk are low-income families and children who are already overweight or obese entering summer. They tend to really show worse outcomes by the end of summer. But yeah, it's the low-income families, and it's often an access issue. They get priced out a little bit, or it's a convenience thing. They maybe have multiple children, and it's just maybe easier to keep the children at home or in one place over summer because of scheduling or transportation. So, these are all logistical things that we have to think about in terms of, well, where could the child go? How much would it cost? How would they get there? But, these are, the end goal would be to maybe provide something through the school that would almost say, well, here are a group of children who are at risk. Maybe there's an opportunity for a scholarship to provide access for these families. Because we found that, you can subsidize maybe the partial cost of a camp for a child or a family. But sometimes when you do that, it's not enough. It's almost, you kind of maybe have to cover the whole thing.
Right.
But then that might not even be enough. It might be, well, I can't get my child there. So I have colleagues who are working on a similar idea, and they've hired out the school buses because they sit empty they sit unused over summer, and they've got private drivers to bus kids to camp because transportation was an issue, not necessarily the cost. So there's lots of little logistical issues, but by and large, it's the low-income families that get left behind. And then they have to pick up the pieces at the start of the school year and go again. So really, it'd be sort of equal access for all. I would like to say that from a federal standpoint, without getting too political, we did a fairly good job of providing scholarship and or support to families, low-income families during the school year. But when the summer comes around, that tap, we call it the Faucet theory. I know I'm throwing all sorts of things at you. There's another theory, the Faucet theory. The tap is turned off, basically.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there for families. They're like, where do I go for this? I don't get my meals subsidized anymore. I have to find somewhere for my child to go, and I have to pay all this out of pocket. So really, it's this turning off of the tap that's really impacting the low-income families. But we have seen across the board that the health outcomes of children over summer generally deteriorate, whether you're low, middle, or high income.
Mhm. It'd be an interesting thing. I was thinking, Howie, and I don't know in Canada, I'm sure it's the same. But like kids in our area district get invited to come to summer school. So it's almost like instead of summer school, can they just go to camp? Like you're invited or like they're identified as like you need summer school. I almost like, I wonder if they would maintain just as much of their learning if they went to summer camp instead of going to summer school, because then their brains would be active. But families jump at that. Like you talked about many, and whether income or not, but especially for low income, I think they jump at that chance to go to summer school because like you said, it's transportation, it's meals, it's something during the day. It's like that structured day hypothesis, but it's too bad it can't just be like, you've been invited to come to summer camp that our district is going to underwrite or something like that.
Well, I think one of the benefits of bringing this topic to our audience is that, I think for those of us in the private space are just, we by nature just generally want as many kids to get this experience as any other kid. And I think there's, depending on your local community and what you're doing, and I know that we deal with, scholarships, et cetera, but in the name of health intervention and in the spirit of just promoting healthier children, to use our friend Michael Brandwine's, intentional camp philosophy of we build better kids. And this is just sort of this extension of the fact that, just a greater awareness that actually camps build healthier kids in the best possible way too. And how could we kind of take this work and bring it to our local associations in the industry or to government or to even just philanthropy in general to make opportunities available. And we know that much of our spaces at camp and listen, we know that there's every type of camp under the sun in terms of facility, but boy, how many conversations Kelly and you have I had about, the number of steps a kid takes in a day on our facilities, just walking alone. It's not walking up the stairs to a class, but you're literally, it's a 10-minute walk to the dining hall at my overnight camp from the far reaches of a village where kids have their bunks. So just walking alone, and then you capture all these other elements. Camp is, I think, generally underappreciated to the degree that it can help solve and help curb this epidemic. And I think, Keith's insight and the work that he's doing is legitimizing, in so many ways, why camp is, so incredibly beneficial. So I will get off my soapbox right now, and we'll continue our conversation. But I'm just inspired by this because I think there's an opportunity for this messaging to be, incredibly more widespread. When you think about, I just think about even the effort we take at our overnight camp about the menu and the choices we're making. And I mean, camps are, there is, Keith, as you know, there's not a parent that sends their kid to camp who's asking, like, how much sugar are you using these days in your kitchen? And like, it's at an all-time high. And Kelly, we're getting scrutinized more and more about, the snacks and the treats we're giving and all that stuff. And yet the physical fitness aspect of it is, we don't get as many questions about that, but that's really at its core, is just keeping all these kids active as this way of curbing all the, some of the declines that your studies have seen over the summer, which is pretty cool. Although we've learned about the ceiling effect, and we've learned about the faucet, and we've learned about all these great things. I mean, all that good stuff adds to this great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the steps around camp, because all of our evidence on school shows the same. These are things that we don't think about. Kids get about 2,000 extra steps per day on a school day compared to a weekend day. And they're not trying to get those steps. They're just getting those steps. And we call that unintentional physical activity. And those are the little things that are built into these structured days that often go overlooked. They're often overlooked. And you're always going to get, people asking about, trying to nitpick a menu. But, I had a look at I was on the Camp Robin Hood website earlier, and you have a set time for lunch. And I'm sure there's certain things on that menu that, might have some sugar in it, but that's okay. They're not going to be eating that all day. And then they got a whole afternoon of activities. The same at school. We're again, it's direction. It's where you're focusing your attention, your direction. It's like we're too hyper focused on the small things that really don't matter. And it's a simple, solution. We've got everything's in moderation in these days. Everything is kind of regulated, and nothing can get out of control. Now, for a kid who doesn't attend camp over summer, there's opportunities for things to get out of control. There's just that opportunity. And you can't say the same during a school day or a camp day.
One of the things that I'm curious about that Kelly and I wanted to ask you, because the article talked about the role pediatricians can play kind of in this prescribing summer camp, this idea of, you write a script for all kinds of things, and now getting the medical community to, you allude to that in the article. Maybe you can speak to this partnering or just the medical world in terms of looking at camp even differently and as giving advice to parents.
Yeah, so this is a project that we just got funded by the NIH, and it took about 5 years to get the funding, 8 different submissions of this proposal. But it was a conversation that we've been having with pediatricians for 5-10 years. They see this accelerated weight gain occurring in their patients when they come back for their wellness checks at the start of the school year. So all the conversations I've had, they're like, oh yeah, it's a real issue. These kids are coming back unhealthier. And here I come along and say, well, summer camps are great places for children to go. Why do we jump on this exercise as medicine? And this is for my exercise physiology people out there, if you're listening. But there is a movement within the American College of Sports Medicine about prescribing physical activity, not just to children, but to adults. Like, why can't doctors say, hey, yes, I'll prescribe you some medicine, but what about doing these things too, right? To maintain a healthy and active lifestyle. It's the same for children. Can we prescribe them somewhere to go over summer? And we're really leveraging this sort of trusted person in the community, right? The pediatrician, the white coat, they're coming into the office and they're saying, hey, listen, we've noticed, your BMI is probably slightly high for your age and your sex. What are you doing over the summer? Oh, nothing much is going on. Well, have you thought about summer camp? Well, yeah, but we can't do it for X, Y, Z. Well, here's a prescription. We've got a local summer day camp that'd love to, have your child. We've written this prescription, so it's going to be subsidized at no cost to you. Off you go. And that's the long-term goal. Can we partner, maybe not only schools with camps, but pediatric, clinics and offices, because they exist all over the country, right? All over North America. Summer camps exist all over North America. If we can start the conversation between these providers, we could build this network, like a referral network, essentially. And then if we can get funding in and maybe change something at the federal level, just to say, hey, don't shut off the tap after 9 months. Let's keep this going for 12 months for the family. Yeah. They have to get a prescription from the pediatrician. Off they go. So it'd be this. I'm positioning here for massive policy change, right? But these are the stuff we have to think for 10, 15 years down the line. But before I go to Capitol Hill and start trying to advocate for this, they're going to say, well, show me that this works, right? So we have to have the evidence, and we're slowly generating that. But yes, the prescription piece of this latest grant is really going to test that out. Will it motivate the child, but also the family to be like, okay, this message is coming from a health provider. Camps are legitimate places to go for my child's health.
Yeah.
Do you foresee, like, in this next phase of this study, that you will actually be partnering with some camps and trying this out? Like, is that going to be a part of the study?
Yeah, this is why everything was really nice timing when Howie and I started this conversation in the fall. I got the funding award for this study, and that's essentially what this pilot study is going to test. So we're going to have 80 children locally here in Orlando who attend a pediatric endocrinologist. So they're diabetic or at risk for overweight or obesity. They're low-income families, so they're on Medicaid. And we're going to randomize 40 of them to receive a prescription from the pediatrician to attend summer camp. And that will be our treatment group. And we're going to compare them to 40 children randomized to a control group. We just get standard care as usual. So that'll be the first stage of this study to show that, this mechanism works by which we send, the child from the pediatrician to the camp. So we have a local summer day camp provider, the Boys and Girls Club. They're going to be providing summer day camps. And then Nemours Children's Hospital, we're using 3 of their clinics as the recruitment site. And we're going to see how this goes.
That's so cool. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you're working on this because, I mean, I don't know about you, Howie, but I feel like I am probably at my healthiest self in the summer. Now, I am eating a lot of gummy sour candies when I go to the office, or peanut M&Ms, but I am feeling like I feel like my healthiest self. And I think counselors talk about that.
Agreed.
I think that's super exciting that you are a part of this, because for me, it sounds like when you look at preventative versus reactive healthcare, like, how much does an obese child end up in their lifetime of health bills or visits or things like that, and those reactive approaches versus preventative? Like, take half of the reactive and put it towards preventative. I think that's super exciting that there could be more of that camp school partnership, not just during the school year of having camps visit or kids visit camps, but actually during the summer. So I'm really excited to follow along to see how this goes. I hope it's super successful so that
Yeah.
other places can replicate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
And I hope friends at the ACA are listening, and I hope, because I think that, getting, this is just the initial platform in the industry to get Keith to do this, but it's just, there's lots to be discussed. I'm sure a lot of people have some thoughts on, obviously trying to support something like this in the industry, which would be wonderful for sure.
Mhm.
Amazing, Kelly.
Keith, before we do some rapid fire fun campy questions with you, I just had a question. Do we have your approval blessing to link your article in our show notes if camps wanted to, like, could this be, the title is that could be a simple solution to reducing childhood obesity. Can we put that link in our show notes for other camp
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
access that and put it on their website or send it
We'll
to
do
the
it.
families? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith, are you ready to get a little campy, extra campy with us now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, put yourself into when you were working at camp. Yep, I don't know, we're not gonna talk about age, but a few years ago when you were an overnight counselor. All right, what was your favorite camp meal? Like, what were you excited to walk in the dining hall and know what was being served?
Like chili cheese dogs. That's Sloppy Joe's.
Sloppy Joe's. Good one.
Yeah.
Sloppy Joe.
Sloppy
Very
Joe's.
American. Very
Next door,
American.
I mean, I'm coming from Scotland. I was like, what is this? It's amazing.
It's kind of like haggis, just really chopped up and
Chopped up haggis.
yeah,
Well,
right on a bun.
in there. Amazing. Amazing.
There you go. That Scottish reference was just for you. Okay,
Oh,
number 2.
appreciate that.
Thank you. If you could lead any program area, I know you said you did sports, but if you could lead any program area at a summer camp, what would it be?
Soccer.
Soccer.
I was the soccer counselor there for the AIC. Loved it. I was
Right. S'mores, burnt or golden brown?
golden brown. Golden brown.
Patient man, a patient
Yeah.
man. All right. If you were a camper, do you think you'd be missing home, and which would make it hard to enjoy, or would you be like, peace out, I'm doing great?
I think I'd be peace out and doing great. We were, I moved here from Scotland and I was like, my brothers live all over the world.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, hey, home's home, but we're good.
That makes
Okay.
sense. That makes sense.
Like that.
Okay, if you were a camp director, would you be happiest like in the office doing logistics, or would you be happier being out and about running around with kids?
Out and about.
Okay.
I think, be present, get feel for the vibe. It's like what the mantra you have at work. If you're there, you got to keep your face in the environment. You got to see that you're there.
Yeah. Okay. Now this one might be a hard one. I'm not going to ask you to sing it unless you want to. That's always an option. But like favorite camp song. Can you think of what your favorite camp song was or is?
The only one that I can remember is from Camp Lennox, which is the camp that I worked at, and it was a very specific chant that we'd sing on the way back from a field trip in the bus. And it was like the whole bus was rocking, everyone's yelling it, and it's memorable. Yeah, I still remember it, actually.
I love that. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that with us.
Yeah, no problem.
We're bringing back core memories for Keith. It's like we love
Yeah.
doing this. This is so good.
I gotta send this to the owners of Camp Lennox and be like, look, hey, 20 years later, I'm on a
Wow.
podcast with some camp directors and owners. They get a kick out of that, I bet.
Well, I hope Kelly and I can make a point of sending it their way as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. So this has been absolutely wonderful for us. I know I speak for Kelly. This is a real special topic. It's really nice in the some 70 episodes we've had the pleasure of doing to really dig into, this kind of specific topic has been really great, Keith. So I want to thank you so much. If people want to learn more about your research, if people want to, reach out to you, maybe they have questions and maybe how they can support this in the industry, what are the best ways for them to get a hold of you?
Probably email. My UCF email, it's keith.brazendale@ucf.edu. And, if you don't remember that, just if you cut UCF Brazendale, you'll probably find my department
Amazing.
profile, and all my information's on there. So that'd be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful. Kelly, how you feeling about this topic and this conversation?
I am feeling really validated that as long as I'm not eating gummy bears all day, I'm just really in my best self and my structured day hypothesis. No, I feel great about it. Not just,
Yeah.
This isn't about me. I think this is awesome. I think this is a great, I love it. I love it for the future of camp and kids. Anything to make kids healthier makes me happy. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Kelly, remind everybody how they can get a hold of you if they wanted to connect.
Yep. My email is kelly@hiddenpinesranch.com. Otherwise, for all the youngins, Instagram is @KJShuna3. Or our camp one is at HPR_Insta. What about you, Howie?
Well, just trying to stay connected with, Gen Z at Howie Grossinger on social media channels. And also you can reach me at howie@camprobinhood.ca, or check out our program at camprobinhood.ca or campwalden.ca, and you can see what we're up to north of the border. We are, Kelly, it is also conference time, and you and I are going to be attending several events over the next several weeks around the time this is being aired. So we'd love to connect with people at various conferences. So please come up, give us topic ideas, say hello. We'd love to connect with anybody and everybody who have been listening to and supporting our podcast. So thank you so much. And of course, we'll put the link to Keith's article, the UCF article, in the show notes, and our producers will make it happen. Of course, before we sign off, we have to give another huge shout out to Camptivities and the team there who have just been so supportive. And if you're looking for some really amazing scheduling options, you got to check out Camptivities. Please don't forget that you can find all of our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. You can find the resources that we mentioned in this episode and lots of good stuff there from our show and other Go Camp Pro podcasts out there. We really hope you enjoyed this one. We want to thank you for listening, and we can't wait to bring you the next episode of the Camp Owners Podcast. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Camp Owners Podcast. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review on Apple Music or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, you can find our show notes at gocamp.pro/ownerspod. The Camp Owners Podcast is part of the Go Camp Pro Podcast Network. Find a podcast for camp pros of every age and stage at gocamp.pro/podcast. Hey, Camp Pros. We love that our industry is built on sharing. In order to foster that spirit, if you've gotten even one good idea from a Go Camp Pro podcast, a masterclass, from the Summer Camp Pros group on Facebook, at a conference, or wherever else, we ask that you give credit where credit is due. That way, we can encourage camp pros to keep freely sharing their brilliant ideas and make the camp industry better. Thanks very much.